There we go. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Families and Fishkeeping. As you can see, my guest, Atkins Nature Aquariums, Ian.
Hey
Hopefully,
guys.
you guys have questions ready. Thank you, Ian, so much for coming on. I know you've been really excited about this, and I'm excited about this one as well. Um, I appreciate you coming on, and hopefully, everybody will have some good questions to ask. I'm not seeing too many in right now. They're all probably still over there with Stephen and Jenna. Let me see here. Yep. Doesn't look like I have too many on at the moment, but that is okay. While we wait for people to trickle in, if there's anything you want to tell us about yourself, feel free.
Yeah, my name's Ian Atkins, Nature Aquarium, and I've been keeping fish successfully for a few years now. Before then, I didn't really know what I was doing and didn't really have any motivation for it. But right now, I've got around 20 tanks in my house, one saltwater, rest are freshwater, low tech planted tanks, and one kind of medium tech CO2 injected planted tank. I mostly work with a lot of soft water fish, like South American cichlids, West African cichlids, plecos, cory catfish.
So a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a specific type of fish that's like your favorite?
If I had to pick like a family of fish, it would have to be like cichlids. I like cichlids the most. And then they come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes, colors, personalities. You can have little shell dwellers at an inch, inch and a half, or you can have a big 14-inch Oscar. I don't have an Oscar right now, but I used to have one.
Yeah. We actually have four Oscars there in our 600-gallon pool because they're about 13 inches long a piece. So, but they started off in, I think, a 75-gallon and they outgrew that pretty quick.
Yeah. That's the one reason I don't keep Oscars anymore is they get too big. My biggest tank is a 4 foot 55, and before I really knew what I was doing, I thought I could try to keep one in there, and he lasted for about 9 months, a year, and I got him this big, grew him out that big,
Yep.
and he was a beautiful long fin red Oscar. Named him Finn. He was just my pet fish. He was the single fish in the one tank. He was awesome.
Yeah. Oscars, they can be quite entertaining water babies when they want to be, for sure. And you said you keep saltwater. What kind of saltwater fish do you have?
So I've only got three saltwater fish that I'm keeping right now, and that's a pair of clownfish and a yellow watchman goby, and he's actually paired up with a pistol shrimp. And it's a
Oh,
symbiotic relationship that happens naturally in the ocean where the pistol shrimp digs a hole for both the shrimp and the goby, and the goby, since he has better eyesight than the shrimp, helps protect the shrimp and keep danger away.
oh, that's really cool. Really, really cool.
And it's also got some soft corals, easy corals like green star polyp, pulsing xenia, large polyp xenia, Kenya tree, toadstool leathers.
Wow. That's
It's
pretty
just a
cool.
little 10-gallon with a hang-on back filter, wave maker, cheap light from Amazon. It's a simple little saltwater tank, but definitely want to do a bigger one.
Yeah, like so you said your biggest tank is a 55. Do you have any plans for getting any bigger tanks in the future?
Oh yeah. When I move out of this place, I want to do big fish. Not like huge fish, but bigger fish. I want to get a couple 120s, 75s, maybe a 125 if I can. But I want to try to keep it.
Bigger tanks can be fun. We we have probably about 24 tanks here and most of them are 150 and up. We have a couple of 55s and a couple of smaller ones, but it's mostly big tanks.
Yeah, you guys got that huge cube tank. That thing's gonna be cool.
We do, yeah. We're still battling getting the water parameters in that correct, but yeah, some doors had to come off and some door trim had to be removed. A lot of things to get it into the house, but definitely worth it. Master Aquatics Eduardo wants you to talk about that weird tetra you got a couple of weeks ago.
That weird tetra. So that tetra is in this tank. That's him. Oh, let me pat that back up. Right here. He's the
Oh,
big guy, and they don't really have a common name. As they're all over the place, but you might find it as the giant spotted emperor tetra. The Latin name is Pseudochelseus kyberzi, and it gets very large. It's fairly rare coming out of Colombia. You don't see them very often. I found it in the store at an LFS, sold as a spotted Danio. And I knew immediately that it wasn't a Danio. So I picked him up, did some research on him, and he's cool. He's a little bit of a jerk. So I'm thinking of what I'm going to do with him.
yeah, he's pretty cool looking though.
Yeah, he's huge. And there's also tiger barbs, festivums, uh, severum, blue acara, rainbow cichlid.
That's a pretty cool mix of all different fish. I like it.
Yeah, it's just a little community tank. The severum's going to grow out of this tank eventually, but they grow really slow.
Yeah. Yeah, slow growing fish are kind of my thing. I like well, I the fish that I keep are smaller fish anyway, but the smaller growing ones are I like them a little bit better just because you can prepare a bigger home habitat for them and you don't have to feel rushed and panic about
Yep.
what you're going to do with that fish that got huge in a short amount of time. Let me see. I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat, at least not as of yet. Trying to think of everything that's been asked and what else we can ask. Oh, there we go. Eduardo saved the day again. How have you become such a plant expert? Eduardo wants to know.
Well, here's what I'm going to say first. No expert. I just kind of know plants. I've been growing immersed terrestrial plants pretty much all my life. I've had a garden outside, either growing flowers, sunflowers, vegetables like peas, cucumbers, peppers, tomatoes. Over here, I'm on the West Coast living in Oregon, so we have legal herbs. I've grown those before too. And a lot of that kind of information is still the same in aquarium keeping. Is they need light, fertilizer, and water, obviously. But a lot of plants are just trial and error. I killed a lot of plants in the beginning, and I watched a ton of videos, not watching, but reading forums, just learning about plants. And all plant species kind of like different water, but try to find plants that like your water.
That's good advice. Yeah. We've struggled keeping some of our plants, but we're getting a lot better with learning what works and what doesn't work. And it's like fish keeping; it's trial and error. What plant's going to be the best, and how do you keep it alive?
Yeah, like this tank, it's got a severum in it. I can't keep most plants in that tank, but I got water lettuce in there up at the top.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got some val, but they're looking at.
one of the ones that everybody always complains about is duckweed and how it just takes over everything. And I've had several people send me duckweed and I kill it. I That's one that I just cannot keep alive. I don't know why, but I've given up.
Yeah, duckweed. Um, it's pretty easy to kill, honestly. If you put a ton of flow into a tank, put a nice top on it, keep it real humid. The leaves don't like water on the top of them, so they kind of just die. And also, a lot of fish, believe it or not, eat duckweed, like a lot of African cichlids.
Yeah, my beta ate the last batch of duckweed that I had. He absolutely, apparently, it was a really good snack for him, and he ate all of it. So I gave up. Eduardo has another question. He said, when you decide to move, is there any place in particular where you would want to relocate? And if so, where and why?
The heck out of Portland, that's for sure. Too expensive, too crazy. There's just a lot of crazy people out, and it's just not safe in the city anymore. So I want to get out into the country, maybe somewhere like Bend or the Sisters would be a nice place.
Yeah, country would be good. Then maybe you could get something with a big barn or a garage and just turn it into a big fish building.
Yep.
That would be my goal. 3G says my goldfish and barbs eat most of my duckweed. Yeah, yeah. Oh, Father Fish is here. Hey, Father Fish. He says, have you developed hydroponics and do you see a relationship between hydroponics and deep substrate natural aquariums?
I have not really delved into hydroponics that much. When I was growing outdoor stuff and indoor plants, it was all in dirt, just potted plants in dirt, water them every day. But I can see the relationship between it because it's fluidized, like the water's constantly moving in a hydroponic system. And it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the same way in our aquariums. Water is constantly moving, but it's slowing down once it gets to that deeper substrate layer. It, it doesn't like fully stop, but it slows the water flow down and creates a low oxygen environment. But I don't think a hydroponic system creates enough low oxygen environment that a deep substrate system does. That's just my anecdotal evidence from not doing any hydroponics at all.
Okay. Good information. It's a lot of terminology that I don't understand, but it's still good information for sure. And to back that up, Eduardo says, with the pronouncement of the Latin terminology that you use to name fish and plants, it is an expert level. Yeah, definitely. I don't even try and learn scientific names for fish. For me, it's just no.
Well, for me, Alex put it in a very simple way. Latin and Greek is very kind of easy to understand because it's a dead language. There's no more like slang or anything messing it up like our language nowadays. So it's
Mm-hmm.
all relatively the same. And no matter where you go, you could be in Europe, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you can try to talk to them with common names, but if you say a Latin name, they'll be able to understand you as an American and know, oh, you're talking of that fish.
Oh, I may
And
have to
that's
go
why
and
I
check
use Latin. And also common names suck. Okay. That's just my opinion. Common names suck. You ask 10 people what a bass is, you'll get 10 different fish.
that is a good point.
And they're all completely unrelated. You could have rock bass, largemouth bass, yellow bass, peacock bass. Peacock bass is actually a cichlid.
That's a good point. Very good point. I may have to start brushing up on some Latin terminology for fish.
And like largemouth bass and smallmouth bass that we have in freshwater in America, they're mostly related to sunfish.
I didn't know that either. Hmm. Interesting. Let's see here. So I know one question that gets asked most of the time for my guests is if money and size were no option, what kind of tank would you get and what would you put in it?
That's a really hard question to answer because I'm just getting into saltwater and I really want to do a large saltwater system, full decked out with LPS, acros, big tanks, and like angels. But I know some angels aren't reef safe, but there's a couple that are really cool, really rare, high dollar angels in saltwater. But it's just crazy expensive to do a large saltwater tank. I mean, the 10-gallon that I did was a few $100
Yeah.
just in equipment and scape and sand.
Yeah. We actually had a 55 that was saltwater at one point and it just got to be so expensive and we kept losing fish. We finally gave up and it's now a freshwater tank. Um, Eduardo, what has kept you so focused since you started fish keeping?
Um, for me, it's kind of like the responsibility. Before I started fish keeping, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I wasn't really doing school very well and about to drop out. And then I was going on YouTube and I liked fishing and I was going fishing a lot back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching this YouTuber going fishing and then he took his fish, went home and put them in a fish tank. And I'm like, what? I used to do that when I lived in Arizona. My brain just was like, whoa. So I went to Goodwill, got a 20-gallon, went and got me a bluegill out of the river. Look at this little guy. I grew him up to like this big, and I was like, okay, he needs a bigger tank. So I went and got a 55, and then I started doing more research on like the nitrogen cycle, and then finding more YouTube channels like Aquarium Co-op and Bentley, freaking MD Fish Tanks, a lot of planted tank people, and I started getting into the planted tanks. And my 55 always was a big fish tank. This was sunfish tank, had a bass in there, a perch, catfish. Then it was my Oscar tank. And then after the Oscar got too big, it was a cichlid tank. And those cichlids got too big and aggressive.
Yep. Yeah, that happens for sure.
Yeah, they were
Um,
all Central Americans that
y-
I had. And Central Americans are nasty fish.
they can be for sure. We've had our fair share. Eduardo, again, within the hobby, what's been your biggest struggle with fish keeping and how have you managed that issue?
The biggest struggle, I see syndrome. So, you go to the fish store and you see something, and you
Mm-hmm.
go get it. I have a very bad issue with doing that. That's like my biggest struggle is I'll just impulse buy a ton of fish. But I do the research on them. Like I'm always doing research. And then I'll see that fish that I did research on. And I'm like, oh, that's a cool fish. I can take care of that. I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't really work out well. Sometimes it does. But I've only been doing this a few years, so I'm still bound to make a ton more mistakes.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we've been doing this for a very long time and we still make mistakes. I mean, nobody is ever going to be perfect in the fish keeping world. And if you say that you are, then you're lying to yourself and everyone else in the process. Mark Sterlson wants to know, have you ever considered aquaponics for herbs and veggies?
I've tried it a little bit, but I didn't really go full force into it just because I want to focus more on my fish. And like I have one planted tank that it's like I really try to focus on the plant's health in there. But all the other tanks that are freshwater, I don't really care how the plants are looking as long as they're growing and helping clean the water and
Hmm.
the fish are thriving. That's pretty much all I'm looking for.
Is it something you may consider in the future?
It might be doing more aquaponics, but I also like growing things in dirt. I'm old school. It's easy.
I have to agree. I have a garden.
I
I grow
live
veggies
in
every year.
I live in Oregon, and it's one of the best states to grow vegetables and fruits outside and herbs.
I would,
And we
yeah,
have the sun. The sun is free.
that's true. Yeah. Let me see here. Oh, Stephen actually makes a good point, not necessarily fish related, but he says smart people in school can be a tough match sometimes. That's very true.
Yep. And after I got my first fish tank, I got my GED in 6 months because I got motivated. I want more. I need to work for this. I need to get my shit together. Sorry for cursing. And do what I need to do. You know, and so that kind of motivated me to not be lazy anymore.
That's a good thing. That means, I mean, it's pretty awesome if you think about it. Fish kind of put that fire underneath you to actually make something of yourself, and that's pretty awesome. Eduardo would like to know what your top 5 pieces of advice would be for a beginner aquarist.
Hmm. Okay. Um, Research number one,
Mhm.
and then testing water is also very key as a beginner. I know if you're a beginner, it's tedious, long. You don't want to do it. Just get the strips. They're fine in the beginning.
Yeah.
Also, deep substrate. I always recommend a deep substrate if you can. And live plants. I think that's four.
Mhm.
Number five. For the best success, I found start with local bred fish, like guppies from someone else in your club or someone in your local Facebook groups. Don't go get guppies from the fish store that have been imported and they've got all this stuff going on.
That's a good point. Let me see here. Have you actually talked into any of your friends into keeping fish? Do you have any friends that are interested in it that have thought about it because of you?
I've had a family member. She started back up her 55 gallon, and I've had to maintain it once for her just to like show her what's going on because she used to keep fish a long time ago, and things are a little bit different than what her knowledge is.
Hmm.
And so I brought her some plants. I brought her some guppies and I think some platies, bristlenose pleco. No, I didn't bring her a bristlenose pleco. She already had a common pleco. And a common pleco is cool. And I know they get really big, and 55 might be too small. And I tried to let her know that, but she really loves that fish. And, you know, common plecos are really cool. I don't care if anyone says they're a cool fish.
Yeah, they are. That's another one of those that we had to put down in the pool because it got to be like almost 2 feet long, and we didn't have the capacity to keep it in any of our tanks upstairs. So it's in the pool now. And we actually have another one that's going to have to go down to the pool because he's quite large and he's starting to actually get aggressive with the other fish in the tank with him because of how big he is. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've heard some horror stories about the plecos, common
Um,
plecos.
yeah, I actually caught him trying to attach himself to one of our frontosa, like he was trying to kill it so he could eat it. It was kind of scary.
Danica Aquatics, he's a local in my area. You might see him on YouTube. He's got a big common pleco in one of his 135s in the living room, the blue tanks. and it killed a couple of cichlids and popped his eye out.
Yeah. Yep. People think these plecos are just these chill little, they're going to suck on the icky stuff in your tank. And no, they, uh, they can start getting pretty wild as they get bigger. Let's see here. You guys are slacking on these questions. Nope, there one just popped in. When you do your research, what do you do to help you define your choices?
Reliable sources. So I won't just look on Wikipedia and have that be my final source. I'll go on FishBase. There's also another one, I forget what it's called, um, Planet Catfish. I know Planet Catfish says they do a lot of catfish, but they do a lot of other fish too. Um, and they do have great information on there. Also, getting in touch with actual people that have worked with these species that I'm looking for and contacting them, getting their opinions, information, experience on that fish.
That's really good advice too, because I think a lot of the time people will just do the Wikipedia or the Google and take that as, you know, final answer. This is all I need to know. And sometimes that can get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Uh, Paul McCarthy would like some tips for setting up a saltwater tank.
All right. So RO water to begin with, since I don't know what your water is. You want to use RO water. You can just get salt water from the fish store and buy jugs of salt water, or you can get RO water, mix your own RO salt water, or get an RODI unit. If you already have one, you can make your own salt water at home. Live sand and live rock. You can get dry rock, but get at least one piece of live rock from a fish store and put it in the tank. Start out with some hermit crabs um, and get easy corals. Don't get any other fish for the first month. And make sure the hermit crabs have food to feed on, put in some pellets or anything. You want to do lots of testing in the beginning. You want to make sure there's not a whole lot of ammonia or nitrites going on. Um, if there is, just make sure it's not killing any of the other life. But for me, saltwater, I kind of did a fish in, not fish in, but a quick cycle with live rock and other algae. Also, an ATO. I really recommend an automatic top off because topping off water every day with a jug just gets tedious after 2 months. I got tired of it.
Those are
And
some
just make it
good
slow.
tips.
Make it real slow. Saltwater is not fast. Nothing happens fast in saltwater.
No. Nope.
Except for if you've got a small tank, things change quicker. Salinity can drop as water evaporates more. Um, Calcium and the alkalinity can change. pHs can change faster in a smaller tank. So if you can, try to go larger. For me, I started out with a 10-gallon, but that's because I challenged myself. But to do the best success, try to do a larger 40, 50-gallon tank and take it slow. Lots of testing.
Definitely good advice. Eduardo wants to know what differences you've discovered between saltwater and freshwater besides adding salt.
Nothing. Except time. Things work a little bit slower in saltwater, you know. But the testing kits are a little bit different. They're a little bit more tedious. There's powders and scoopers you got to deal with. But I mean, the basic principle is the same. You test your water, make sure water chemistry is key. You want to make sure if you're doing corals, your corals can photosynthesize.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, it's just like our plants. Our plants want to photosynthesize. And I mean, I've had super easy maintenance, clean the glass, feed the fish, do a water change. I haven't really done anything super complicated, like get a protein skimmer or a sump or start dosing this and that. Like I just kind of do my water changes, watch the corals, make sure they're all doing okay. I do feed my corals. I feed them a mix of phytoplankton, amino acids, and reefroids, which is like a dried phytoplankton. And the reefroids I also like for use in freshwater for feeding my fry because it's a small powdery food and
That's
it's high in protein.
interesting. Um, I can never take Stephen P seriously, but he wants to know, are bristleworms fluffy and soft? I don't know if that's a joke or not.
Don't pet your bristleworms. Don't touch them. They will sting.
Ooh,
I've been stung.
ooh.
I mean that is another thing with saltwater. There's a little bit more creepy crawly stuff, and corals have actual chemical warfare with each other because they're all fighting for space on the reef. And if you got one coral that touches another coral and it's not the right one, they're gonna nuke everything, release all these bad chemicals into the water. Um, so you got to be really careful on what corals you're placing together. But that's
Hmm.
like not beginner stuff. Usually, most easy corals like green star polyps, xenia, they don't care if they're getting touched. But leathers, if they touch other corals, they can kill other corals. Zoanthids, they can kill other corals pretty easily. And euphyllias, which are not easy at all. Those are LPS coral. They like a little bit more stable water. Um, they're just more finicky. But they have these long sweeper tentacles, and if that sweeper tentacle goes and stings another coral, it's done. They're
Mm.
super powerful.
All right. Eduardo says it's obvious that you're passionate about the hobby. When you have the opportunity to breed fish, which ones are on your list? And he would like to know why.
So yeah, I have bred a few fish in the past. I'm not really doing it for profit. I do it for just the experience of watching the behaviors of the fish. Uh, First, it started with guppies. Got rid of those. They bred way too much.
Yeah.
But I want to work with more lesser known fish that might not have the best habitat in the wild right now. And so a lot of fish are actually in danger of losing their habitat. And we might not have them in the next 10 years.
Oh.
But one of the species that I'm working with right now, and my girlfriend's working with them, are the tequila goodeids, and they're thought to be extinct in the wild, where they come from in Mexico.
Oh.
And so they're only alive through the aquarium hobby. And that's, to me, the most benefiting thing that I like the hobby is being able to save species of fish that doesn't have their habitat anymore.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Let's see. Oh, Steven says, only take me seriously when I'm being serious. Well, that's the problem. We never know when you're being serious, Steven. Let me see here. Petroman says, I use RODI water to add when water evaporates from my tanks, no minerals added back.
Yep. RO is good for top off water. My tap water is very clean, very soft, acidic water. So I use it for topping off. I also use it to make my own salt water for my reef tank. I'm not recommending other people to do that because I don't know what your water is and what minerals, phosphates you have in your water. So just stick with RODI if you can.
That's one thing that I still don't really understand is the RODI. People talk about it all the time. I just don't quite understand it yet.
It RODI is pretty much like the baseline 00 GH KH. I believe it comes out at 7 pH. There's like no ammonia, no chlorine, no phosphates, no nitrates. It's perfect pure water. Oh, also TDS. Most RO units should be putting out 0 TDS water. And now, if you do a water change and you just put 0 TDS water, that can crash your system. So before you add RODI water to a water change, you want to add minerals back, like a GH booster or a KH booster, whatever you use. But most people use a GH booster.
Okay. It looks like Eduardo is taking off, but he said he thanks you for your insightfulness and detailed information. And he has to go and do some house decor work. Ooh, okay. Well, thank you for being here, Eduardo. This is a good one from Stephen P. Is RO necessary for salt all the time? And what is in tap water that needs to be avoided for salt water?
So pretty much the main thing you want to avoid uh, if you're in tap water is like high GH and KH because most reef salts already have that buffered into them. And you also want to make sure you have no nitrates or phosphates because that's going to fuel algae. And that's pretty much what I would look for if you want to use tap water for a saltwater system. And also, if you're just doing a fowler tank, which is fish only with live rock, no corals, you do not need RODI water. You can just do full tap water. It doesn't matter what your minerals are, what salt you use, as long as you get the pH and the salinity right, which usually for pH for fish, you want to keep it around like that 7.8 to 8.3. But salinity, you just want to keep that at that 1.025, 1.026 specific gravity. Uh-oh. I can't hear you now.
I was muted. I didn't realize it. Anyway, Stephen P. had another question. I don't know how well you can read it.
So I have 2 ppm phosphate in my tap, no GH and 7 DKH. So basically not going to cut it for any salt system. You can use your water for salt, but that phosphate is going to lead to more algae issues.
And is there anything that
Yeah,
he could do to remove that phosphate?
RODI.
Okay. There you go, Stephen P. Let's see here. I have to keep switching between YouTube and StreamYard because I don't catch every comment if I'm just on StreamYard.
I also have another little bit about the phosphate.
Okay.
If he is just running a full, not reef setup, just fish, he can use macroalgae with his tap water, and the macroalgae should take up that phosphate.
Okay.
And macroalgae are like the plant.
Oh, gotcha. And then he actually just said, what about phosphate pads? He's never tried them himself.
Yeah, me.
Okay.
My plants are phosphate pads. Or algae. Algae is great for phosphate. And I don't like algae on my plants, but I don't mind it if it's on the rocks and on the glass. I'll leave it. except the front. I like cleaning the front.
Yeah. A good one from 3G. He said back in the 80s, the wet dry systems were the rage for salt, and since I've been back in the hobby, it's out. Is there any reason why?
Hmm. I honestly don't know because I'm super new into the saltwater. Like I started my reef tank last year in May, and I don't know much about sumps at all. I've never used a sump. I've had internal sumps before that I've tried to make myself. Never really worked right, so I ditched them.
And that might be why the wet dry system isn't popular anymore. Maybe it's there's something in the mechanics that people just find too difficult.
Yeah.
John the Fisherman just made it in. Hello.
Hey, John.
A lot of people coming in and saying hi, and I'm trying to say hi to as many people as I can, but there's so many good questions coming in right now. I'm just trying to keep it rolling. We already asked that. I'm not seeing any other questions here. You did mention that you have a lot of planted tanks. Do you do the CO2 injection? I've noticed with a lot of people within the fish community that the CO2 injection is quite popular for planted tanks. Is that something that you've tried?
Yeah, I have one tank that's injecting CO2, and I do like it for my more rarer plants that need that CO2. Not all plants need it, but it is good if you're trying to maximize plant growth, if you're trying to grow plants for profit or propagate plants put into a new tank. It's really good for that, but it's also pretty dangerous. You can flip a knob the wrong way and gas out your fish pretty fast if you're not paying attention. It also is pretty expensive, but I think for the plants that I'm trying to work with, it's worth it. But it's not needed for most aquarium plants.
Okay. Oh, and Stephen P says most of them don't need CO2, but it's like steroids for plants. I've always wondered because I hear a lot of people talking about doing the CO2 injection, and I'm like, is that something that's completely necessary? Is this something I should be doing with my plants? Um, so that I mean, that's good information to know. It's not something I necessarily have to do.
You know? And honestly, adding CO2 to a tank can make more problems if you're not ready for it. Because adding more CO2, the plants are going to want to grow faster, so you might add more fertilizers, and more fertilizers, not enough light. Okay, there's going to be some algae issues. Might try more light. CO2 is like, as a beginner, it's a little finicky to start with, but once you get it down, you work with it for long enough, it's nice to have.
Okay.
Especially for those slow-growing plants like cribs, Nubius, Bucephalandra, they just take off with the CO2.
Yeah, and I wondered that because we actually have a Nubius in the 200 cube, and then I've got some in my 10-gallon with my guppies. Um, but I guess slow growing is okay, especially in my guppy tank. That they don't need to like take off too quick, for sure. Um, Beck's Fish Room says I'm late into the stream, but have we asked Ian if he has any interest in aquascaping? I don't recall that we did ask that.
Yeah, so I like aquascaping. I wouldn't consider myself an escaper, but I like to play with rocks and wood and try to create a pleasant layout for the fish and me to look at. The
Mm-hmm.
big thing I try to look for when scaping a tank is making sure the fish have territories to hide out. Lots of line of sight breaks. I also try to make sure there's like mixtures, textures, sizes. I don't really go by the rule of thirds or the golden ratio, but kind of just put the rocks and the wood, some plants, and it all falls together like a puzzle.
Yeah, that's when I do my aquascaping, which I've just kind of gotten into. I just kind of put things in there that I think look good aesthetically in the tank. And then, like you said, making sure that everybody kind of has a place that they can hide out and just make the tank look nice and make it something hopefully fun for the fish. I don't really have a rhyme or reason to how I do it either. Um, Levi would like to know what is the best saltwater tank size?
The biggest one you can get.
Yep.
That's the best one.
John the fisherman doesn't think he's ready for the CO2 injecting. I don't think I am either, to be honest. I'll probably just use like root tabs or something like that. Like the CO2 just I'm too scared that something would go wrong.
Yeah.
And on the same token, Stephen P, you got to pay attention to it. I've gassed out a tank before, hard lesson. Yeah, that would be my
I
biggest
almost
fear is going the wrong way with it and killing everything in my tank, and I would just be devastated. Like, no, I don't think that I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, I almost gassed out my fish with my CO2 system. I was pumping in way too much, and I wasn't paying enough attention. A couple hours later, I come back to the tank to check on it, and my drop checker is bright yellow, which means there's too much CO2, and all my fish are at the top, just gasping for air.
Oh no.
Get
Yeah,
that
that's
CO2 off. I freaking do a big old water change. Only
yeah.
lost a couple of the rice fish, but most of them made it.
Oh, that's a good thing. Beck's Fish Room says, very cool. That's what I like to do. It's all about making the fish happy while also making the tank pleasant to look at. Yeah. So, like, I know that some people, when they get into aquascaping, they're very particular about, what they're putting in there and exactly how they want to place it. For me, it's just make it look pretty.
Yeah. And I mean, if I were to do a contest, aquascaping contest, which I have wanted to do in the past, I probably would try to use like the rule of thirds, golden ratio, stuff like that, because contests are a little bit more different than like a home tank.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Lefty would like to know, is there a fish you have on your dream list that you would like to keep one day?
There is one. And I'll probably never be able to keep it in the United States of America. And that's Chana Poacher,
Oh,
dwarf head. They get like this big, 6 inches, and they are just beautiful snakeheads.
that's
There's also
interesting.
there's a whole bunch of dwarf snakehead species that they're line breeding in Europe for all these magnificent colors, and most of them are tropical species that wouldn't survive in the Columbia River where I live. So, but they're illegal, so I can't have them. I can look at them at the internet though.
Yeah. And it's funny because when you said illegal, I was thinking like, a lot of people would love to have the what is it? The
Asian
Asian
airline.
arowana is a really, really popular one that people are like, man,
They,
just if
they
they
get
were
too
illegal
big.
here.
Get too big. I mean, I could probably easily hide a little 55 somewhere in my house with a dwarf chana, but I don't want the FBI breaking through my house.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not down for trying to keep anything illegal. I tell on myself way too easily, and I would
Yeah.
be so excited about it. I'd brag to the wrong person and I'd have the FBI at my door. I'm no. I'm good. Lefty says we had snakeheads here in Connecticut. Some D-bag let them go into a local pond stream. Yikes.
Yep. And so a lot of snakeheads, they get this bad rap because a lot of them are cold water mostly, and they get very large and they're highly predatory. They're very good parents. They form strong pairs, male and females, and they protect their nesting sites. So they're a very invasive problem fish if they can get into a local waterway. And that's the reason they're illegal. But there are species of snakeheads that if it gets too cold, they're just going to die, like a lot of other tropical fish.
Yeah,
So that's why like a whole blanket ban on snakeheads is kind of, it should be up to the state.
that's a good point.
But
Stephen P.
I'm no politician.
Stephen P says, if you can't show off your fish, why have it? Exactly why I would never own anything illegal in this country, because I tell on myself way too much. Like I it would end badly for me.
And the cool
Eduardo's
thing about
back.
oh,
He says, would you in the near future create several videos where you show and name a nice selection of plants and fish with their Latin names?
hmm. So like an informational video. I've thought about it. You know, there's a lot of other people doing informational videos. I do have a lot of plants. Well, not a lot, but I do have a few plants that aren't very common, so I can try to do some of those. But I'm not very good at doing informational videos.
Right. Um, I'm going to mute myself for just a second. Hang on.
Yeah, but I was gonna say the cool thing about those dwarf snakeheads for the chat, uh, they like planted tanks. And that's kind of why I like it.
Yeah. Sorry, I was actually letting Mini Metalhead know that the new baby here, she's been sitting in her tank now for a while, and it's time for her to try and eat because she hasn't eaten since she was shipped. So she was 4 days in the mail to get to us, and we acclimated her and kind of left her alone for a few hours. So now it's time to see if she'll eat. Fingers crossed. She's pretty fat, so I don't think she's going to turn down bloodworms.
Yeah,
Oh, I think Steven missed this. He said, what is the reason for banning snakeheads? I don't think he heard you explain that.
because a lot of them, like the Russian snakehead or the northern snakehead, those are the ones that are in our waterways right now, wreaking havoc. They're very territorial. They form strong pairs, and they're good parents. They're kind of like cichlids, where they care for their fry. So they're a pretty good size, and then they are just highly predatory. They eat a lot of other small fish. They're highly adaptable. They have a labyrinth organ, kind of like a betta or a gourami, so they can survive low oxygen environments. The northern snakehead, Russian snakehead, they can survive very cold temperatures as well. So that's kind of why they're banned. That is the blanket ban on the whole species because they're scary snakeheads. It's my theory. I'm not a politician.
She was hungry, huh? Again, sorry. I just heard her kind of freak out a little bit. She was hungry. She went right for the bloodworms. So that's good.
That's
I'm
always a
just,
good sign.
yes, that definitely means that she is healthy. The shipping didn't do anything to her. That's, yeah, makes me very happy.
It's a good time of year to be shipping axolotls too.
Yeah, especially because they like the cold. Her box was so cold when I brought her in, so I immediately put her in the tank and just kind of let the water she was in get acclimated with the tank, and then I cut open the bag and let her out. But yeah. Um, So, Eduardo, Ian, you just chatted in Steven's stream and did educate us. I believe we all would benefit from you sharing the information you have in your mind. Correct me if I'm wrong. No, I agree with Eduardo. Just because a lot of people do informational videos doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to give the exact same information or portray it the same way as someone else. So, it's always nice to have information, even if it's the same information from several different people, because some people don't always explain things in their video very well, and somebody has to go back and watch it a couple of times. You may be able to break down information in a way that people are going to understand versus that same information from someone else. So
And I have thought about it. Like, I wanted to break down different families of Microsorum and how they're
mhm.
all related, but the same. And there's like a lot of different other plants that are aquatic that are related to a lot of our terrestrial plants.
Yeah. And I mean, like Steven said, everybody has some bit of knowledge and unique experience to offer. So, again, even if the same information is being relayed from 10 different fish tubers, it's it's going to be that unique experience, and it's going to make it, yeah. Just, I feel like informational videos are still a good thing, even if somebody else has already done it. Do it in your own way, make it unique to you, and you're still going to get that information out to people. Hmm. My daughter is having a heyday with shortcake right now. Oh my goodness. Um, okay. Paul McCarthy says planted tank is my next project. Yeah, we we've actually planted 3 tanks over the last couple of days. It's been quite interesting, but we actually learned a lot about dirted tanks from Father Fish, and so we kind of have been dabbling in that a little bit. It's been fun and messy, but interesting to see how it'll all turn out in the end.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, apparently everybody is just now taking down Christmas decorations. Okay. Well, I mean, I still have my little Christmas tree sitting right here next to me, so I'm
Yeah,
not
I got
quick to remove
a
decorations. Hmm.
didn't know lights this year though. So
Is that all over her body? So hopefully this will show. We have discovered that Shortcake is a messy eater, and she actually has bloodworms. I'm trying to. There we go. She
yeah,
actually has bloodworms all over her body because she was just spitting them everywhere.
that's adorable. Is that a leucistic axolotl?
She she is. She is a Lucy. Yes. I had been hunting one down for quite some time, and I finally found a woman in Washington State that had her full grown, so she was 100% sexed and guaranteed to be a female. Um so I took the plunge and I bought her. It wasn't cheap to get her here. Shipping actually cost more than she did, but it was worth it because I found websites that had Lucy's, but they were only 2 to 4 inches, and you can't actually get a correct sex from an axolotl until they're 18 months old.
I have
We
no idea.
actually, yeah, because we had actually, the first 2 that we got, we were told one of them was a male. And we were like, okay, but he's pretty small, so we're not sure. And then right at that 18-month mark, we discovered he was actually a she. So her name had to be changed. um, oh, this is a good question from Eduardo. He said, besides Alex, who educates us all, who else or others do you seek knowledge from?
There's a lot of great people on YouTube. I seek knowledge pretty much everywhere. Like Father Fish, he's a great knowledgeable person. Aquarium
Mm-hmm.
Co-op, the team over there, very knowledgeable. I'm also blessed to have the Wet Spot as my local fish store, and Wet Spot's pretty big, and they know what they're doing over there. Also, there's it's a lot of like wild biotope footage channels like Ivan Mikoji or Low Water with Oliver Lucanus. They do a lot of native fish all over the world, and you get to see all their different habitats. And those are like the stuff I like to watch. With like Ivan Mikoji and Below Water are good ones.
Yeah. And we actually, I don't know if you are familiar with cold water aquatics.
That cold water
Brendan and Aquatic Nests. Yeah. We've actually learned quite a bit as far as like keeping cold water fish from them. Aquatic Nest is actually in here, but yeah, they do a stream every Friday, and we have learned so much about keeping. They keep local cold water fish, and
Yep.
it's pretty cool to watch their live streams and learn about those fish from them. What? Turn it off. Oh, my little one can't get the lid back on the fish tank. Oh my goodness. Give me, I hate to do this, but give me a second so I can help her get that
Yeah.
fixed real quick here. There we go.
There's a fish tank. Oh, let's hit this chat button. What's going on? Eduardo. Oh, does pineapple on pizza? Eh, if it's Hawaiian pizza, I'll eat it, but I won't order it.
Oh my,
Yeah, that's all right.
my. Oops. Okay, sorry about that. Um, oh, did you answer Eduardo's question about pineapple on pizza?
Yeah. Sometimes I won't order it, but if it's there and if it's got ham, cheese, pineapple, I mean that's pretty much all I need.
It's a good.
Good.
Yep. Lefty, are there any fish you regret buying?
Low key, this freaking Tetra, the Kyberzi pseudo Celsius dude, he's a jerk, man.
But
I think
just
I'm gonna
low.
take him just low key. I might take him to the club meeting tomorrow.
Oh no. Oh my goodness.
He's keeping my festivals up at the top, and their fins are starting to get nipped.
Oh my gosh. Stephen P
I'm
wants to
watching
know. Stephen P wants to know Snickers or Reese's.
Reese's. I like Reese's.
Oh, Eduardo says, but he is so great, you got to keep him. Jerk fish are so hard to keep. It's like I've been in that battle where I'm like, man, this fish is a jerk. I'm gonna get rid of it, and then we just move it to another tank. And
And he gets so large. I mean, if he was smaller, I wouldn't mind trying to put him in like a 3 foot tank. But that's a 4.5 inch, maybe 5 inch Tetra. I mean, he needs a nice 4 foot tank to swim around it.
oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, it'd be cool to see him in like a 6 foot tank with some other ones.
Oh yeah, for sure. Stephen P wants to know, are your tiger barbs still being jerks?
They're actually calming down. They're jerks to each other, but they leave all the other fish alone. I like I like the tiger barbs because they got like that little bulldog attitude. The males will like shimmy up with each other and like flare their fins up real big. It's fun to watch. I mean, they're not ripping each other apart, but
Which is
really
good.
fun.
we had a group of tiger barbs, and now we have one alive that we actually put into our 150 that has a Florida gar in it, thinking the Florida gar would like just end it and we would never have to see that fish again. That was false. That tiger barb is living its best life in this 150 with frontosa and a Florida gar. I just don't get it. But he killed every other barb in the tank he was in.
Yeah. And the
Ridiculous.
barbs that I got five of them from Dan's Fish, and they were wild caught. And then I
Mm,
got one other barb from my club meeting a couple months back, and he was a buck, just $1, all alone. So I was like, well, you're coming with me with my other tiger barbs,
yeah.
and they're cool. My girlfriend has green tiger barbs with her cherry barbs and checkerboard barbs.
That's pretty cool. Um, this is always such a tough question. Jeremy wants to know your favorite YouTuber.
Ugh.
I know. I hate that question. Hate it.
Favorite YouTuber? Mm, right now, I'd have to say um, either Below Water, which is Oliver Lucanus's channel. I'm really loving that right now. Or Stephen P. 2003. He's doing some cool stuff over there. I
He
really
really
like it.
is. Yeah. From Beck's Fish Room, what has been your best experience in fish keeping and your worst that almost made you rethink the fish keeping hobby, if you have one? And if you do, what got you through it?
Okay. So I kind of got to think about that one. My proudest moment. Hmm. I think the proudest moment I had was when I had a full carpet of glossostigma in a tank. And glossostigma is kind of like this really small foreground plant, and it was just a full dense carpet, and I loved it. And then I pulled it out and I killed it,
Oh,
and I pretty much almost like completely wrecked that tank. Like when I pulled that out and I changed some of the plants around because the glossostigma, it was so cool, but the carpet was just getting too bad. Like it was starting to lift up in the back, and it was starting to cover a lot of my bucephalandra. So I pulled it out and I kind of moved some things around, and I completely upset the balance of that tank. I had cyanobacteria for weeks, and
mm.
then weird hair algae, and it just killed all my cool plants that I had in there. Almost killed all my boosts, but I moved all my boosts to a new tank, and still got them going. But it was like a mixture. I took the CO2 off of the tank, and I still had the same lighting schedule, and I was still doing the same amount of fertilizer. So without that CO2, it is just a whole big old mess. And I almost wanted to just rip the tank apart and start over, but I kept through it.
Okay. Good one from Lefty. He wants to know your favorite schooling fish.
Ooh, Emerald Eye Rasboras. They're a
Yes.
nano fish. They only get to like an inch, inch and a quarter, but they just school so well. Now maybe not in like a higher light tank. They don't school as well, but once the light starts to dim, or you put some floating plants up at the top of the tank and the light's dimmer, they school super tight, and then their eyes just shine from across the room. They're a really cool fish.
I would have to agree. I've actually thought about getting some of those for our community tank. Um Eduardo, he says, you mentioned you have done flower gardening and veggies. What did you grow this season?
Nothing, because I
Nothing?
was working too busy. I usually do an outdoor, like peppers, chives, tomatoes, sunflowers. Um, One year I learned the hard way that you can't grow chili peppers next to your bell peppers because the chili peppers make your bell peppers really spicy, and then you go to cook with them, and then it makes your whole dish spicy as hell.
Ooh. He did have a second part of the question. He says, and like I do you use the aquarium water as fertilizer on your plants?
Yeah, I do. Well, I have a Python system, so a lot of my water doesn't go outside. But when I do manual water changes with like a bucket, like I do sometimes, I'll go toss it in the garden. But yeah, fish tank water is good stuff for like gardens and flowers and stuff.
You know, I have a little 3 gallon tank at work on my desk in my office, and it's got one of those, like, you just pull up the spout and turn it around, and you can just filter the water right into a cup. You don't use a Python or anything. And so when I do water changes, I have this little cup, and when I get it filled up, I always joke around and say, hey, which of the plants need watered? And they're like, ew, that's so gross. And I try to explain that fish water would actually benefit the plants, but they don't want me doing it, so I don't do it. But
Yeah, Walmart actually sells fish poop water.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, it's great fertilizer for plants, but people just get so grossed out that they don't think about. I mean, it's no different than using Miracle Grow in your soil,
yeah.
but whatever. Oh, Jeremy is being rotten now. Now he wants to know who your favorite subscriber is.
Okay. My favorite subscriber. Oh, this one's gonna make me tear up because he's no longer with us. But Aquarium Cop.
Okay.
He was one of my favorites.
And Stephen P says that your check is in the mail since you mentioned that he is one of your favorite YouTubers.
I'll be waiting for that check.
Hopefully, it's a good size. I'm just saying. Lefty wants to know your favorite substrate that you have used.
I think that's least favorite substrate
Oh,
you've
least
used.
favorite. Sorry.
I've gone through a lot of substrates, like a lot of aqua soils, and I've used a lot of gravels. Sand is my go-to for everything, but the one sand I don't like is the black diamond blasting sand. Because I don't know if it's just me and it's a weird bag I got, but it was just super, super dirty. And I mean, it looks all right, but also it has like these little weird sticks in it. I don't like that. Little weird black sticks. I don't like that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I've actually heard of a lot of people using that particular sand, and we've always been curious about it. But um, yeah, we are definitely trying to change all of our tanks out from gravel to sand because we've discovered that sand is so much easier to maintain and easier to clean.
Yeah. So my favorite sand right now is the basic Quickcrete all-purpose sand from Home Depot. It's
Mm,
like a 20-pound bag, and it's got a mixture of different sizes of like small pebbles to a fine sand, coarse sand, and it's just really nice to have plants grow in it. It looks really natural. I can show you what it
yeah.
looks like in a tank. Okay.
Oh, let's see if we can't. There we go.
My connection just went out. What the heck is up with that? I moved and now everything's messed up. Can you still hear me? See
Yes.
everything?
Yep. We see and hear you just fine.
All right. So this is the sand slash gravel. And it's super cheap. It's like less than $10 for a bag. But it's a nice mix of different sizes of pebbles, coarse sand, fine sand. Corey's love it.
I like that.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see here. And Beck's Fish Room wants to know if you are Team Snail or no.
Yes, Team Snails. Snails are awesome. Except for Colombian ram's horn snails. Don't buy them. Don't put them in your especially your planted tank. Don't put Colombian ram's horns in your planted tank. Ask me how I know.
Something
There's no
tells
more
me that
plants in
was a
that tank.
disaster.
They bred and then they ate all of the plants in like a month.
Oh no.
The Anubias, all the stem plants. They almost killed my pothos, which I thought was crazy.
Oh no.
But yeah, Colombian ram's horns are the only snails I don't like. But Malaysian trumpet snails, ram's horn snails, bladder snails, mystery snails, neorites. We've also got limpets, freshwater limpet snails, and those are really cool. We got those from Aquatic Arts. They're the marbled turtle limpet thing. They're cool.
Yeah. Let me see here. Kay Halliday says, "Is it true Black Diamond is actually coal equivalent of tea and tea bags?"
I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I rinse the heck out of it, and it's dirty as hell. Heck, and a lot of like little sticks in it. There's just I don't like them. I feel like the fish don't like them. And so when I get a chance, I'm switching out all the black diamond substrate to the all-purpose sand because I like that better.
Yeah, we put the all purpose, like the sand that you would put in a sandbox. That's what we put in our 200-gallon cube, and it's awesome and so cheap. Lefty wants to know if there's any type of music or artist you like to put on during fish room maintenance.
Audiobooks, actually. I do a lot of listening to audiobooks. Right now, I'm listening to Star Wars Ahsoka Tano, read by the girl who voiced Ahsoka in the Clone Wars series. It's good, but I've also read all the Knights of the Old Republic series from Star Wars. I'm a big sci-fi guy.
That's
And
awesome.
music, I listen to a lot of different music, mostly like dubstep, rap, some rock, metal.
Anybody
System
that
of
likes metal is a friend of mine. I'm just saying.
System of a Down is my band. That's my favorite band. Serge Tonkin, he's got a voice.
Yeah, he's awesome. Let's see here. Eduardo says, "You're a natural communicator. Is there anything that you fear that holds you back from expanding your channel?"
Not really. I feel like my channel is growing significantly. right now. It's just slowly, I'm trying to be more open on camera and have more personality on camera, but I don't really talk a whole lot in general. Like, I don't talk to friends really, so it's kind of still trying to find who my personality is.
That can be difficult for sure. Lefty, what is a Colombian ram's horn snail compared to the regular pink or blue ram's horns? Oh, and then he says he guesses this is where scientific names come in handy.
Yeah, the Colombian ramshorns have their own scientific name. I don't remember it. Um, but I think they're part of the apple snail family, and they get like that big. The Colombian ramshorns. I mean, there's a huge difference, and the Colombian ramshorns also have like stripes going down their shell,
Okay.
and they also have like a patterned foot, like it's like splotchy, peppery, salt pepper pattern foot. And then the normal ram's horns, I mean, I've seen some pretty chunky ones, like an inch, but the Colombian ram's horns just get way bigger. They eat a ton of plants, not really a whole lot of algae. And so I have pink and blue ram's horns. I love them. Feed them to my puppers. And Amazon puppers love
That's interesting. Um, Lefty noticed your shirt. He says, is it a Van Gogh or Doctor Who shirt?
them. It's a Star Wars Van Gogh.
Nice. Star Wars and Van Gogh. You can't go wrong.
Nope. Yeah, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. I've got a bunch of figures from like the 1970s. They're older than me, but I got family members. And they're passed down to me. And I still got them. Maybe one day I'll pass them down to someone else in my family. I don't have any kids yet. So.
There you go. We're pretty big Star Wars fans over here, so I mean, that's a pretty cool shirt, not gonna lie.
Thank you.
Lefty says he put ATATs in his African cichlid tank and wanted to know if you saw that.
No,
I
I
don't think I saw that either.
didn't get a notification for the cichlid tank. I got a notification for the Java Firm video yesterday, and I watched that one. But I didn't see the African cichlid. I gotta watch that one.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna have to look at that too because that's pretty cool, not gonna lie. Um, Owl Wet Socks, 1970s aren't that old. I would have to agree. I'm just saying.
They're not that old, but they're a little bit older.
Yeah. Um, let's see here. He says he's going to post a close up pic on Insta for us to see it.
Cool.
Oh, Eduardo, we just opened a can of worms with the Star Wars thing. He says, what's your favorite film in the series and best character in the universe?
The best character in the universe. Ugh. Okay, so my favorite actor throughout the whole series is Mark Hamill. I think he did a great job playing Luke Skywalker. Maybe not in the newer movies. I felt like we could have done a little bit better in the newer movies with Disney. But in the original trilogy, that's my favorite. Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. He did a really great job in that movie. I can watch it over and over again and recite and quote like almost everything in that movie. When I was a kid, I actually wrote like a storybook of Empire Strikes Back with all the cool quotes from the movies and like little pictures that I drew.
Oh, wow. That's cute. Oh, okay. Matt, go back to your nap. Go back to your nap. We don't need that negativity here by asking what Star Wars is.
What is this negativity I see?
Yes, we don't need that negativity in our lives. Oops. Lefty says Return of the Jedi and Kit Fisto for me. Eduardo, thanks for asking. Couldn't spit that out for some reason. Oh, Matt. He says he's never seen Star Wars. How? Just,
That's impossible. You can't live in America and not seen Star Wars at least once.
I mean, that's just heartbreaking. How have you never seen Star Wars? Like, are you hiding under a rock? I just
All right,
don't get
so
it.
what it sounds like is I gotta go get my copies of the prequels and the sequels and send them over to Matt.
Lefty says, all right, time to unmod Liquid Zoo and ban him.
Okay.
Oh, goodness. Ben Backstrom is apparently another one that has never seen Star Wars. I just I can't with you guys. I can't handle this. Can't handle
Wow.
it. Good fish question actually from John the Fisherman. He says, how did you learn all the different cichlid names and retain them?
Mm. So when you go look at Latin names, I like to look at their genus, right? And then I'll go look at their family and see how they're related, and that helps me a lot remember of what fish are tied to what. Also, just repetitively typing it out. Also, maybe saving it into your phone somewhere so that you have it. But it it's kind of just like memory, and over time you get used to all the different cichlid names, and over time cichlid scientific names do change.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
But like writing them down on the tank, I did that for a while till I got it burned into my mind that that's the Latin name for that fish. Or even for a plant, I've still got the sticker of the plant with its Latin name on the tank because I forget how to spell it all the time.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, just try to keep like little notes somewhere. That's what's really helping me remember because there are a ton of fish, and trying to remember them all off the top of your head is almost impossible. But the more you work with them, you can see like what fish are related, and like you can say, okay, so that's this genus. I can say it's part of that family, or if it's this family, I can say it's probably part of these few genuses.
I think for me, I would probably need like a picture book of the scientific name and what the fish looks like so that then I would be able to retain that information a little bit better. But that's still a really good recommendation on how to retain those names. Let's see here. Eduardo says, thank you for sharing. He tells me this has been one of the best youth streams to date, and thank you for another super impressive interview. You definitely have a lot of knowledge, and I don't want to take away from any of my other guests, but you definitely have a lot of knowledge and quite a passion for it, even as young as you are. Um, and you are the oldest person that I have had on the stream, but that's really not saying much because the amount of knowledge that you have is quite impressive. Bex agrees. Petroman, have a good night. Going to Longhorns. Can you can you mail me a steak? maybe. maybe a baked potato to go with it. Just ask it.
Put a heat pack in there. Make sure it don't go cold.
I can reheat it. Let's see here. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not missing anything. I'm trying to understand what Matt means by I have a cute girl on today, because he did follow it with cute. I hope he's not making fun of you, because that's just rude. But that's also Matt. We get it. Oh,
That's it.
Lefty tagged both of us on Instagram in his
Cool.
AT-AT photo.
I'll check that out. I will be leaving here just for a minute.
Okay.
Be right back.
Sure. I'm going to check out this photo real quick while we wait on him to come back. Stop it, Lefty. That is so cool. Now I need to know where these AT-ATs came from, because those would look insane in one of our tanks. I'm just saying. Those are so cool. So cool. Love it. Oh, eBay. See, I don't really eBay, but I might eBay for that. Unless I can find something similar on Amazon, and then I would go with Amazon. I'm just saying. Levi, it's actually a video, and I don't know if Lefty wants that to be shared or not, or I would imagine that he probably would have already shared it. Look at that. Lincoln sending me the link on Discord, even, just so that I can check it out. Oh, the price is definitely worth it. So, okay, let me see. I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to do this, but let me see if I can pull this video up to where you guys can actually see what it looks like, because it's really, really, really cool. I don't know. There we go. Like, I don't care who you are. That is so cool. And I don't know why it went to the next thing, but here we go.
All right.
Those
that's
are
the
just
AT-AT.
really, really, really cool. So cool.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna have to get some of those for my tank for sure.
And
Those
like
are
get
pretty.
some moss growing on them or something.
Oh yeah, that would be the best part. Like, you could even implement some moss into the tank for them. Really cool. And there was actually a question. There we go. Beck's Fish Room. She had a great question for you. She said, "Where do you see your hobby in 5 years?"
5 years. Hopefully more tanks, more bigger tanks. And I don't want to breed for profit. I want to breed for the sustainability for the hobby. Like a lot of the fish I'm working with right now are cichlids, and the ones that I have are either wild caught or first generation from wild caught. And I want to work with making sure we don't have as much wild caught fish coming in it anymore, and we have more tank raised fish going out.
And I
So
love that idea.
and it's not going to be for profit. I'm not going to care how much money I make. Like breeding rainbow fish, I've got a pair of those Manai rainbows. I mean, they take forever to grow up, fry, but they spawn every day.
Yeah. Yeah, there are definitely days when I question why I thought it would be a great idea to get a mix of male and female guppies, because my females are popping out babies. It seems like every day, even though that's not true. I have
Yeah,
so many guppy babies. It's ridiculous.
yeah. And I mean, when I had my big cichlids and a ton of guppies, we would take our coals to them, or if we got too many of them, we'll just scoop out a bunch. I'll cull out any of the bad ones or the ones that don't look right to me, and just sell them or give them to the store.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do with these guppies as I get overrun because I know it's going to happen, but I'll figure it out. And we have yellow labs in our 125 that keep having babies as well, which I mean, it's fun, but at the same time, we end up with those babies and we're like, okay, now what do we do with these babies? So you have to be careful about, like, you definitely have to think about breeding beforehand just because there's a lot that goes with it.
Yeah.
And see, Lefty brings up a good point. He says, I wish I had the tank capacity to breed these more endangered species. Hobbyists got to do our part to make sure certain species don't disappear.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I've got a few tanks down here, and there's too much fish in them, so I'm trying to wean out some fish, get more tanks set up, get more species only breeding setups just for those fish, and it's just gonna be for the love of them.
Yeah.
Make sure they're around. And like those yellow labs you have, those are a staple fish in
Mm-hmm.
the African cichlid community. I mean, people starting out their first African cichlid tank, they're gonna get some yellow labs because they're just a really stunning, easy fish to keep.
Oh yeah. They're definitely beautiful and it's really cool to watch them because they're mouth brooders. So you always know when one is holding because she doesn't eat. She goes after the food, but then she hesitates and you're like, "Oh no, more babies." But
And
they're fun. Let's see here. Trying to find more questions, but it seems like the ATATs became really popular in the chat. Those are really cool. Like, and I don't really buy on eBay, but if I have to buy on eBay to get those, I'm definitely gonna get some because they're so cool. Where am I at here? All right, who else has questions? Come on, guys. Got roughly 20 minutes to get your questions in. Lots of good knowledge. Um,
if you want, I can show you a couple of tanks while you're looking for questions.
yeah, absolutely. Do that. That'll give everybody a chance to kind of think of things to ask you. Nope. There we go.
So this is a 29-gallon standard aquarium.
Uh-oh.
Cichlid coming out of the Rio Negro, or I believe the Rio Zingu. I always get it mixed up. One of the rivers out of Peru.
Those are really cool looking.
Yeah, there's still juvenile. That's a for sure male. And then they get really cool. They have like war paint on their face almost.
Their patterns are just crazy.
When they're adults, their max size is only 4 inches, and when they're adults, they're just stunning in breeding condition.
Very pretty.
I've got a group of 6 of them.
They're really cool looking.
They are, aren't they?
They
They're just
are,
like stunning.
yeah, their patterns are just beautiful.
So I'm really hoping I can get a breeding pair out of these. And these are my mushrooms. They're little
Those
caves. They have little entrances on the other side.
those
I
are
like
pretty
them.
cool. I like that whole setup of that tank. It's really pretty but natural looking at the same time.
Thank you. And it's just got super easy plants like Phocostemon stellatus, Rotala, Java ferns, Kabamba, and a ton of red root floater.
I was actually going to ask you what that was because I like how it's on the top like that, and the way the roots look in the water is really cool.
Yeah, I like it because the roots don't get super long. They only get to like a couple inches. And if you have higher light with lower nitrates and like more iron, they get really, really deep red. And you're also able to flower it. They have little white flowers sometimes under good lighting.
That's really cool. Do they make water changes difficult though?
Not really. I scoop them out before I do water changes,
Oh, okay.
and then I'll add some back in. Like this is probably a week and a half worth of growth.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
starting out with like I'll leave that amount in there usually, and then it grows really fast. And it competes with the duckweed, so there's not as much duckweed as there used to be.
Oh, wow.
And that's why I like the red root floater. And these are the Mexican live bear tequila goodiad. These are the ones that are believed to be extinct in the wild.
They look like they're small, but they're super cute.
They are small. They're only like a couple inches.
Oh,
The
okay. Yeah.
tequila is very big. And they got some mystery snails in with them, and that's it. But the trick with them is they need very alkaline, cold water.
Mm,
So this tank is in my basement, doesn't have a heater, and it stays around 67, 66 in here. So they love it. All the other tanks have heaters.
that's a big snail. Goodness.
Yeah. Mystery snails get pretty big. And down here, if my connection will stay alive, these are Amazon pufferfish.
They are so cute. Oh, I love it.
They're awesome. It's super hard to stream with them though because they're on the bottom floor,
Hmm.
and I'm in my basement, and the internet doesn't go down that far.
I understand that.
Oh, my L333 has made an appearance today.
Oh man, I love those.
He's just a little baby right now.
They are just so stunning.
He is. I love that guy. And he's in here with a super red bristlenose too. They're
Oh, I
doing
love
all
the
right.
super reds too. We have a couple of super reds and I just love them.
This dude's always trying to cause some attitude.
Oh, yeah, they typically can be. We have a couple. They're quite feisty. Oh, he's so tiny. Oh my goodness. Yeah, he is so tiny. So cute. It's a pretty angel too.
Thank you. This is the CO2 tank.
Oh, okay.
This is what I use. It's not your standard everyday CO2 system, but it works.
Really, really cool. See, that's another planted tank that I just love it.
Yeah, it's a fun tank. I trimmed it a few days ago.
That one right there just wants all the attention.
The angel.
Yes.
Yeah, he's an attention hog. He's like, feed me.
Uh huh.
And this guy is super special.
Oh, he gone. He took off. He doesn't
He's
have time
gone.
for you.
He's like, oh, you're talking about me. I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
He just doesn't like the camera. But that is a Enigma Chromis lucanusi. They're similar to Crebensis, but they're not technically classified as a Crebensis anymore. They got put into their own genus. And that's the male, and the female was out just a little bit ago. But they're a super cool cichlid. He's full grown at 2 inches,
Oh my goodness.
and the females are smaller. Oh, there she is. Just popping her little head
Oh
out.
my goodness.
And he's being like, yeah, where'd you go, lady? Where'd you go? You're a little jerk. I think I'm going to put them in a bigger tank.
They might need it.
Yeah. I mean, they're a 2 inch cichlid, but they might want a bigger tank.
Mm-hmm.
And this is that same sand, that Home Depot sand.
Oh, okay.
It's like 4 or 5 inches thick. So it's a really deep substrate. But oh, that pleco.
That pleco is just those triple threes are just stunning.
They are. And they've got some like crazy triple threes. They're line breeding now. They've got like
Yeah.
all these different A grades, B grades, super whites. Like it's crazy. And they're stunning.
Oh yeah. And expensive.
Yeah. Very expensive. That little pleco was $40.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And I think that's my most expensive fish at this time. I don't know if my Amazon puffers count because those were $22 a piece, but I bought 5 of them.
I mean, it still counts. That's still a pretty expensive fish.
All right, let's flip this camera back around. Unless you want to see some more.
If you have more to show, there are quite a few questions in here, though, and we've got about 9 minutes.
Yeah, let's ask some questions. Get some questions.
Um, Lefty wanted to know your favorite color fish.
Favorite color of fish? Brown. I like the brown fish with not a whole lot of color to them. I like that subtle pattern that just kind of sticks out.
Yeah. And then he followed up with, is there any color you find is hard to find naturally in a fish?
Hmm. I feel like there's not a whole lot of green or yellows naturally,
Yeah.
except for like yellow labs. Ooh, bright
Right.
yellow.
Um,
There's green neons. Those are natural. Yeah. Not really sure. There's so many colors that fish have that our eyes might not be able to see
yeah, that's a good point.
because they've got all these iridophores and colors, things going on in their scales. It's crazy to really see what colors are actually coming out.
Yeah. Another one from Lefty. What do you think is the best size tank for a younger person that wants to get into the hobby?
Well, if they want like, it really depends on what they want to do. Like, do they want to do cichlids? Do they want to do a community tank? Planet tank? I would try to say, I mean, a 20-gallon, 30-gallon gives you plenty of room to play with. Water parameters aren't going to swing as much. It's not going to cost too much to set those up with sand, rock, wood, filtration. Um, Cost won't be so much to do a tank like that.
That's good advice. Another advice question. Bex wants to know what would be the best advice you could give to help out a new fish keeper getting into the hobby?
Well, I'm open to help out any new fish keeper, and it really depends on what they need help with. Like, if they need help cycling a tank or they need help with some plants, I'll help them out, give them a seeded sponge filter or some biomedia from one of my tanks that's been going up for 3 years now. That's well established media that they can use.
Yeah, for sure. Lefty brought in another question. Any style tank you regret buying?
Rimless. I know it sounds weird, right?
Yeah.
Rimless, those are supposed to be the nice tanks. Okay, they're
Yeah.
nice, but for a glass box, they're a little expensive.
Yeah. We actually have a hex tank that a little low key I kind of regret getting just because um, we literally have so many tanks that there's not really a good place to put it. So where it's sitting, you're not really getting the full effect of it. So I kind of low key regret that one.
Yeah, and I do have a bow front. I like it a lot. I think I got it free. No, I paid for it very cheap at the club, but it's a shell dweller
Oh,
um,
okay.
bow front, 29 gallons or something like that.
Okay. Um, Another one from Bex. What's the biggest lesson this hobby has taught you that you'd pass on to others?
Patience. Patience is key. I mean, it's easy to rush into things, buy a whole bunch of fish, and plants, and everything in the beginning. It's also really easy for all that stuff to go away really fast. So just try to take your time and try not to impulse buy as much.
Yeah, it's definitely good advice. Uh, Ricky de Hoyos, what kind of shellies do you keep?
I keep Neolamprologus multifasciatus, the common multi. I got them from a local breeder. Um, got like 12 or 13 of them for a really good price. He was sending out his colony, and I was like, hey, I'm going to start my own colony.
It's always nice to get fish from a local breeder.
Mm-hmm. And Lake Tanganyika cichlids are kind of really new to me because my water is super soft, 0 GH, 0 KH out of the tap, and 6.8 pH, 18 PDS from the tap. So that's really soft.
Mm-hmm.
Lake Tanganyika fish ain't going to survive with my tap water. So I do special treatment with cichlid buffers using an aragonite-based sand to keep the buffer up as well.
Okay. And Eduardo, he typically asks this to everybody that comes in as a guest. If you were able to travel any place in the world, where would you go and why?
Ooh, there's so many places I want to go. So many. And I think it'd have to be Nuremberg, Germany, just because of the famous Nuremberg ring. It's this huge racetrack that's like
Mm-hmm.
in the roads. It's super cool. I'd love to just drive a car flat out on that racetrack.
That would be pretty cool. Let's see here. What other places would you be interested in visiting? You said there was a lot on that list.
Japan is one of them. There's a couple cool drift mountains and like time attack racing stuff in Japan. There's also some fish stuff. Uh, Before I really got into fish, I liked cars and racing. I'm not very good at it because I don't have a car right now, but I like to watch other people do it.
Yeah.
But it's Japan's got a huge car community over there, and it's fun. I'd like to go visit Peru or Colombia. Go search for fish. Africa. Go search for fish in Africa. That'd be fun.
Oh my goodness. Now all the questions are coming in, and I literally have 1 minute left. Goodness. We'll go with this one from John the Fisherman. Will adding, I don't know that word.
Aragonite or crushed coal raise your pH and pH already high. No, it shouldn't, because the buffering capacity happens as the acidic water is breaking it down. So if your water is already basic or alkaline, it's not going to be breaking down anything. Unless you have like Catapa leaves, other things that are already breaking down in the tank, that will lower the pH actually.
Um, from Ricky de Hoyos, how big is your multi colony?
I've got 13 adults and a bunch of babies. Bunch of bunches.
Yeah. Try to get through these quick here. Chris Robertson, what tank do you not have yet that you want to set up in the future?
The Oscar tank. Would be the 125 Oscar tank. That's what I need.
We had this conversation. The Oscars that we had were in a 125, and then we moved them to a 150, and now they're in a 600-gallon pool. So, just saying. Oscars are fun, though. Okay, we will go ahead and end with this question right here from Craig Doniger. He wants to know your favorite fish.
Oh, that's difficult. I'm gonna have to say my Enigma Chromis Lucanusi pair. I've been working with this species for over a year and a half now, trying to breed them. Um, this is my second time keeping them. I did kill my first colony I had of them, just mistakes of the fish keeper. But they're the one fish that I feel like I want to work with the longest. And maybe eventually, if I can breed them, try to line breed them, make my own line of Enigma Chromis.
That's really cool. Excuse me, really cool. Okay, it is 6:02. I have people that follow my stream, so I definitely need to cut out so that others can move on and watch the rest of the streams tonight. Again, thank you so much for coming on and being a guest. You have an amazing amount of knowledge for how young you are in fish keeping. I hope you continue that and you share this passion with anybody that will listen to you.
Yeah, I
And
really
thank you
appreciate
guys.
that.
Thank you guys so much for watching and for asking those questions. I will see you guys again next week. I hope you all have a good night. We'll see you guys later.